Hello friends and welcome to the Old Bank of Johnston. I'm glad you're here. Today I'm going to build something that I have never built before, a Murphy bed, right here in this spot where I sit. As I was finishing up some of the last details of the bedroom build, I began working on the new bed for the bedroom. This was no easy task as I had to figure out angles, dimensions, use the Pythagorean theorem, basically do all the things that my math teachers predicted I would have to pay attention in class for. And then finally, I've got it. When I designed this room, I made this cubbyhole back here to fit a queen-size Murphy bed. I have been very inspired by upper management to make this room and create this space to be simple. And I might have taken it over the top just a little bit. Now, a Murphy bed is not necessary, but when we do want to use this space for something else other than a bedroom, perhaps, maybe, who knows what happens in this whole space in the future. But I wanted to make it available for multi-purpose use. So hiding away the bed in case things got dusty and dirty in here was the #1 priority. And then just having a multi-purpose use space. So it could be just an entertaining area. So this hotel-like room that we've created is going to now host this beautiful bed. Hopefully beautiful. I think it will be. Never done this before, but I have confidence it's going to turn out just fine. I started the process of designing this Murphy bed by researching online, looking at videos of people that did their own, but everyone uses this same kind of mechanism. It's an assist for lifting the Murphy bed up into the cabinet, or in this case, into this cubbyhole. I decided not to use that. I was tempted, but it's $350. I wanted to make my own mechanism and save a little bit of money, and I did. I think it's gonna work. I did a little research on bearings, two kinds that I would like to use, and I decided on just one, but there's this type, the pillow bearing, which we'll be using. It's going to attach right into the side of the wall. And then this is a block bearing. I have it attached to this board because I was trying to figure out some angles and all the math of how this is going to land when it lays up, and where do you put the rod and how do you position it all. And I finally, after lots and lots of staring and thoughts and writing notes in the notebook here, I came up with a good plan. I drew out this first original sketch of a pillow bearing and the block bearings and how I was going to attach the bar and then a rotating shelf, but that's all changed, including this cabinet that I was going to build when this bed was going to be built upstairs. With just some doing, I figured out exactly where this pillow bearing is going to live. Really, I just looked over at a chair, measured the height, figured, well, this is about where it's going to go. I'm going to attach this, and then after we attach it, I'm going to just figure out exactly where the bearing or the rod is going to go on the platform, because that's just too hard to tell. Even with making this, it was just kind of a waste. Again, I've never done this before, so I don't want to put a hole in the wall and have to move it. So I really wanted to take my time and figure this part out, and I think that this is the spot right here. So let's get started. I'm really excited about this one. I love these type of projects where I just get to make it up as I go. It's like adult Legos to the max with really cool parts and pieces. Didn't even know what a pillow bearing was before. Cool. The chair that I measured, I just put the tape to it and saw there was about 20 inches. So somewhere in that area was a nice sitting height. And I deducted the height of the mattress and all the base and everything, and I came up with that spot. I used my laser level to align the bearings and then started cutting out the wall to insert the bearings directly onto the extra stout framing I prepared for them when I was building the surround. I'll be using 4 3/8 inch by 3 inch lag screws to attach each of the pillow bearings to the wall. The bearings will hold a 3/4 inch galvanized pipe that I previously used as a long pipe clamp for repairing doors. Luckily, I have 2 of these clamps, so sacrificing one to the cause won't be much of a loss. To make this pipe fit, I have to drill a deep hole into one side of the wall to set it into place. That's it. There we have a rolling bar. Cool. Now that I have my actual measurements between the two pillow bearings, I'm able to make the platform. I didn't know what the sizes were going to be, so I'm changing things as I go a little bit, just adapting to the situation. The reason I didn't use this block bearing is because it would raise the platform just too high. I didn't want to do that, so instead of having a really high bed in here, I'm going to sandwich this bar in between the platform so you won't even see this thing when the bed is up or down. Obviously when it's down, because the bed's going to be on top of it, but it's going to be hidden away, and I think it's going to look really nice. I've got all my measurements, got my drawing of the bed, all the little details that are needed. I'm going to start cutting the boards, and I wanted to start with a good fresh blade. I want to show you how to change blade in a saw. A lot of you probably have never done this. First thing is make sure that the saw is unplugged. Usually a saw comes with one of these tools. It easily gets in here to the gate area. And on the back, there's a little button you push right there that locks the blade in place. And this is one of the few things on the planet that have a reverse threading. So it's righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. And I happen to use a left-handed saw. Most people have a right-handed saw. I got this for a really good deal at Lowe's a long time ago, the Blue Store. Now make sure you're putting the blade in the right way, and on the blades there's an arrow that tells you blade rotation. Right there it is. And then here is a rotation. So since this is a left-handed saw, I'll be flipping this over. Most of the time you're gonna be reading the advertisement or the information on the side that's visible, but since we're in a left-handed saw, it's a little bit different. And lefty-tighty. And that's it. Ready to cut. I've been staring at these notes for a while, just making sure, because I cannot mess this up. I've got to cut it just right. I think we're there. Something I wanted to point out about this plywood is these purple dots. When you get to the orange store or the blue store real early in the morning, there is a bargain bin. Most stores have them, just scrap wood, things that got a little damaged somehow, like these three boards, and they discount them 70% off. This is a $65 or $67 regular price piece of wood. That is extremely expensive. I was not looking forward to spending that kind of money. And luckily, since I got there as they opened the doors in the morning, I went directly to, as I always do, go directly to the bargain bin and see what they got. Even if it's something you don't really need, but you find a good piece, usually I'll buy it. Somebody would have walked away with these. Glad I got them. Saved a lot of money. I've made a mess. Lots of sawdust. I started cleaning up, but I wanted to show you proof there was a lot of cutting today. I've cut all the wood I need. All the parts are collected. Now the last thing I need to do before I assemble the bed in its place is put together these 2 by 2 inch braces that will create a rigid platform for both the base of the bed and the front facing facade. Today is the day. All the wood has been prepared, sanded down, ready to be assembled. All right, let's get started. I began the assembly of the bed by neatly organizing all the parts for easy access. I'll be using U-bolts to attach the base of the bed to the rotating pipe. Here's an example of one of the U-bolts that I'll be using to keep everything in place. Using the big green scrubby pad cut to the thickness of the mattress itself, I was able to determine the location of the attachment points on the base so that the mattress was far enough away from the wall that it wouldn't affect its rotation. For the base, I'm using 1/2 inch treated plywood that was previously used for window coverings. A queen size bed is 60 inches wide, which means I'll have to use 2 boards to complete this base. There was a heavy green powdery residue all over these boards, so before using them, I had to scrub them down to avoid introducing any harmful chemicals to the room. Once I had the base in place, it was time to start assembling the frame. Now friends, I wanted to show you a detail about this before I put it all together because it's easier to see now than when it's assembled. This is what I did to the surround. I just cut a notch in a 2x6 so this platform can sit on top of it. I'm putting the whole bed together pretty much backwards in this case. Now I have to cut a hole here to accommodate for the pillow bearing, and shouldn't be too hard to do. I think I've got it lined up just right. Once the outer frame was assembled, I propped up the bed to attach the 2x2 cross beams that will keep everything rigid and give me a place to attach the front-facing facade. Now, something else I wanted to show you is the legs that I'm using. I'm using 3/4 inch galvanized pipe. This is usually used for gas pipe and other applications too. A lot of times you see this as structural use, like in shelving and stuff like that. But I'm going to use it for the legs, and that is what's going to make the rotating mechanism that will flop down when the bed is down. I had to take these to Price's Metal Shop to get them cut, and you might be able to tell here that the threading is pretty long on this as compared to the factory side. It's about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch longer than normal, and that's so I have a little more adjustment on the feet because the concrete floor is somewhat unlevel, and I also accommodated for the area rug that I plan to put down, so about 1/4 of an inch there, so we'll have just a slight slant downward that I'll be able to adjust perfectly before the rug gets in because I have this extra threading. So that's how it's working. I'm using the same style of U-bolts to attach the rotating bar with the legs to the base. Then, to avoid any future damage to the mattress, I'm cutting and grinding smooth the tips of the U-bolts that are penetrating up into the surface that will come in direct contact with the bottom of our brand new NOLA mattress. I used a total of 8 U-bolts, so there will be 16 posts to grind down. After some trial and error and much contemplation, I was able to design an inconspicuous opening to conceal the legs while the bed is stowed away. I cut slots just large enough to accommodate the width and length of the legs, then mortised in the small hinges and door opener caps. This was the best way I was able to hide the legs, and I think it looks great. Now that I know where the legs will be located, I'm going to install the trim. I had to custom cut all the trim from larger boards in order to match the trim in the rest of the room. Much of this wood is recycled from the V.E. Edwards hardware store demolition down the street. When the bed is stowed away, I want it to look more like a closet door than a bed in the wall. Luckily, the 3/4 inch cabinet grade plywood that I used for the front is exactly flush with the surrounding wall, so I'll be able to simply overlap the trim onto the wall to accomplish the look that I'm going for. Since I put this 2x6 right on top of the 3/4 inch plywood and like sandwiched it all in there, you could see the edge of that plywood, and I didn't want that showing, so I made this trim piece. This trim is just scrap from the notch I cut from the frame earlier. I pre-drilled small holes to avoid splitting the wood and used 1¼ inch finish nails to attach it to the bed. I filled the nail holes and imperfections with wood epoxy and sanded it down with a 120 grit on the electric sander and a 220 grit by hand to give it its best chance of a good finish once it's all complete. There's a couple minor things I'll fix once I can see some imperfections, but it's looking pretty good. One great feature in the Murphy bed mechanism that you can purchase online that I don't have the ability to take advantage of is the lifting capability. Those things do assist you with a set of springs in a lot of cases that will help you lift it up, and I don't have that. I've seen people make their own out of garage door openers, like this big spring in a garage door. I didn't put a lot of effort into figuring that out, so I'm just gonna have to lift it up. And with 2 people, it's gonna be no problem, but even without the mattress, it's pretty heavy. To keep the bed upright, I'm using a 4-inch hinge pin from an old door from the upstairs. I'll drill a hole in the side of the bed and into the wall and covered both with a washer. It's looking good, everything's sanded down nice, it's smooth, cleaned off, ready to prime and paint. After 2 coats of primer and sanding in between, I started applying the top coat, which is a white Sherwin-Williams semi-gloss. To make sure I get the best results, I'm straining the paint before applying to eliminate the chance of getting any debris in the finish. To paint this, I would typically just use a brush because I like the look of the brush strokes on wood. But on this occasion, I'm using this roller that's got very little nap to it. It's not a foam roller, but it's got a tiny bit of nap, I don't know, a 1/16 of an inch maybe. And when you put it on, there's one direction that it will like kind of leave an orange peel look. And if you go back over it, it's like fine tuning it. And when it's all complete, you can't see any brush strokes from the corners where I do use the brush. And it makes it look like it was sprayed. I'm also using an additive called M1 that makes it really smooth. I use it in all of my latex paints. You can't use it in oil base. There's another product for that, but I use this quite a bit, and it does extend the drying time and also makes the paint just really, really smooth. Painting is always a part of the project that I look forward to. It's therapeutic. It's like watching a masterpiece come to life. It's also the precursor to the end of the project, which in this case means all I have to do now is install the covers for the legs and the decorative yet functional handles for the faux doors. The legs and covers turned out better than I expected. I think there's a way I can improve this design for the next build, but for making it up as I go, I'm happy with the way they look and function. I'm almost done with the bed. I'm finishing up some details, and I had an idea here for some handles that would help raise and lower it without getting the paint dirty by handling it every time it goes up or down. I had these brackets sitting around from an old project. The brackets I made hold a 1/2 inch piece of copper pipe perfectly. With a cap simply placed on either end, I've created a nice looking functional handle made of parts I already had that will patina and look better and better over time. And that's it, the bed's complete. It looks and functions better than I anticipated, and I'm confident that the next one I build will be an improved version of this one. And although I didn't show it in process, I used the scrap cabinet grade plywood to build a removable backrest that's easily removed and looks good while it's not in use. I made this backrest with a 15-degree angle, which I find to be perfect for leaning back on, doing some computer work, watching TV, just hanging out. Without this backrest, all these pillows just fall down behind the bed and you wake up in the middle of the night annoyed, or at least I do. So it does come in handy. I was just doing some calculating here and discovered that with the wood, the bar, the pillow bearings, the screws, the U-bolts, everything all together came to $296. If you were to buy all the parts from the store and didn't have anything in your own stock like I did, you'd spend about $550 for all the parts and pieces to build this bed. And it took 16 hours total, about 8 hours to build the bed, 4 hours to figure it all out, design it, put it to paper, and 4 hours to fetch all the parts. Thanks for joining me today, friends, on this start to finish build of a Murphy bed. If this type of a bed is in your future, I hope this video inspired you to attempt to build it yourself. It is a very affordable project to take on, and it works great and it looks great. I think it makes the room look really nice when it's up and when it's down. Thanks for joining me today, friends. I appreciate your company. I'll see you in the next video.